Good morning, my fellow light explorers. Have you heard the old adage that the best camera is the one you have on you? Well, today I only have my iPhone, and I want to show you all that you too can take great landscapes with just your phone. For this video, I'm using my iPhone. However, the principles should be the same for Android phones too. The controls will vary, so please consult your phone's manual if you're not familiar with them. I am at location number 1. Now, this is the same location I had used for my earlier video, and today's intent is not to find new compositions, but to try and see if the phone is good enough for shooting landscapes. So here is location number 1's composition. We're going to have these rapids coming diagonally across the screen, the tree on the upper third as before, and what I intend doing is I will take 2 different shots. One with the built-in software for the camera on the iPhone, and the other with the Moment app using RAW. So we'll take 2 and compare and see how it looks. I'm currently in the iPhone's camera app, and this here is my composition. So I've got the tree on the upper right, the upper third, and the water coming diagonally across the frame. Now I want to have a milky effect, but the issue is with the iPhone, the software controls the shutter speed and the ISO. The aperture, of course, is fixed. So let's take a photo first, and let me show you how a default photo would look. So that's your default photo, and it's not too bad, but the water is not milky and the exposure is slightly overexposed. So let me first show you how to adjust the exposure. To adjust your exposure, place your finger anywhere on the landscape. Let's say this cliff face, and keep your finger pressed until you see an AE/AF lock. That means an auto exposure, auto focus lock. So your exposure won't change, and neither will your focus if you move your camera around, your phone around. Now, place your finger on the sun's icon on the right side of the square and bring it down to lower the exposure, or take it up to increase the exposure. I'll keep it somewhere out here, and that looks good. So let's take a photo and see how it looks. Okay, that's not too bad, but as you can see, the water is not milky, and there is a way in the iPhone to get a milky effect. What you do is make sure you have shot this photo using live. So enable live. Now live's enabled. And then take your photo. Once you've taken your photo, open the photo and then slide up. You'll see these 4 different windows for effects. The rightmost window says long exposure. Click on that and you have your long exposure. Now it looks good, but the issue is that it's too milky because you can't control the shutter speed and the ISO on the inbuilt camera app. So now let's switch gears to the Moment app, shoot in RAW, and control the shutter speed and the ISO. Alright guys, so now I'm in Moments app, and you can see the RAW is enabled, and I have my controls right here. So that's my ISO. So the first thing I'll do is lower the ISO all the way down to ISO 24. And once I've done that, I now need to compensate by lowering the shutter speed, which works out well for me because I want a milky effect. So let's go to right about here. A shutter speed of around 1/5 of a second. That looks good. 1/3 of a second, and take the shot. Now let's take a look at that and see how it looks. Okay, that looks way better. And what I'll do is I'll process this raw file, and we'll compare this finished processed raw file in a JPEG format with the iPhone's inbuilt camera app's image and see how it looks. Guys, I found this location in an area called Wall Street, and it's pretty cool because you've got the water leading from the front to the back, and you have those two trees on the left side and the cliffs on the back side, which will glow very shortly with the reflected light. So hopefully it's a good composition. Now, a couple of things I want to show you. One is that I bought this kit by a brand called Ulanzi, and they've been making some pretty cool stuff and cheap, you know, for smartphones. And this clip-on lens is an ultra-wide lens that clips on to your phone. If your phone doesn't have an ultra-wide lens, the more modern phones, I think the Samsung and the iPhone 11 Pro Max, I think, has the ultra-wide, but I have an older iPhone, so I wanted something wider. So I got this lens right here, and I'll do a separate a couple of minutes on this kit. But that lens comes with a CPL, a circular polarizer, which actually is great for cutting out reflections. So check this out, right? We have these reflections on the water right here, and now watch, as I turn the CPL, what happens. The reflections are all gone now. So it's really cool to cut out reflections and get this landscape below the water. And I use it all the time on all my wide-angle lenses and also for landscape photography. So let's take a shot. Hang on, the adjustment has to be just perfect because you can see over here on the left side there is some fuzziness. It's not in focus, and now I think it looks good. Alright, so let's try and take a photo. Now remember those 3 or 4 points. First, place your finger anywhere on a medium brightness scene or section of the landscape. So let's say I want to expose for this. Get the AEF lock text. Then slide down the sun icon till you get the right exposure you want. So I think I'm happy with that. And then make sure light's enabled if you want that milky effect that the iPhone gives you. And now take a few exposures. Let's bring one up. Expand to see if the lens is okay. Yeah, it's a little fuzzy, but it could be the wind too. Now slide this up, take it right, click on or press or tap on the long exposure, and there you have it. Looking pretty good. Okay, let's switch now to the Moment app and see how that fares. Alright guys, so now I'm in the Moment app, and first things first, the ISO is already set to minimum. That's fine. And the shutter speed at 1/13th of a second. Let me lower that slightly and see how it looks. No, it's too bright. I don't like that. Let's go back to say 1/11th. You're getting good detail in the water and the cliffs, and that should be a good enough shutter speed. So let's take a couple of shots here. Go to your raw file and see how much little cleaner this shot really is. I will post side by sides in the video, the moment images compared with the iPhone, the stock iPhone camera app images, and you'll see the difference right there. Like I said, the issue with the iPhone app is that it's a great app, great processing, but the issue is you can't control the shutter speed and the ISO. So the camera selects that for you, and I want the lowest ISO possible so I can have the lowest shutter speed too for the great milky effect. Now your idea may vary, so you might want a higher ISO because you don't want this milky effect, which is totally fine. So please go with what you feel you need. I currently have the iPhone XS Max, and that does not have a wide-angle lens. And since I like to shoot wide, I bought this Ulanzi clip-on wide-angle lens from Amazon. Honestly, I'm not expecting much for $35, but I'm curious to see how this performs. If you have a wide-angle lens on your phone or don't want a wide-angle perspective, you definitely don't need to buy this lens. So this kit lens comes with a 16mm wide-angle lens with a circular polarizer on it and two clips to attach the lens to your phone. My iPhone's quite old and it doesn't have a wide-angle lens. The newer iPhones do have those. The newer Samsungs and Android phones also have a wide-angle lens. So you don't need to buy this kit if you already have a wide-angle lens or don't like to shoot a wide perspective. Today I'm at Canara Falls, that are about 45 miles from Zion National Park, south entrance. And these falls are beautiful. We've got the lower falls and the upper falls. So I'm currently heading towards the upper falls because the light there is better than the lower falls early in the morning, and the light improves significantly for the lower falls late morning. My intention is to do the same I did yesterday for Around the Narrows. I plan to take shots both with the iPhone camera app and also with the Moment app, where I'll shoot RAW and control my shutter speed and the ISO. And then I'll compare both and show you how they look. Alright guys, so this here is my composition for the upper Canara Falls. I'm currently in the iPhone's inbuilt camera app. So, and I've got the Ulanzi wide-angle lens and the CPL on. If you have a wide-angle lens already on your camera or don't like shooting wide-angle lenses, that's fine, ignore this. But I've got my waterfall right here, and I've got the water leading up to the front of the frame. Looks nice. And let's first take a shot with the iPhone's inbuilt camera software. So as before, make sure that you have place your finger anywhere on the landscape, keep it pressed, until you see the AEF lock text, and then slide the sun icon down to lower the brightness or the exposure and slide it up to increase the exposure. I like it just about there. Make sure live is enabled if you want that long exposure effect that the iPhone software gives you. So turn this on and let's take a couple of shots. That's how it looks, not too bad. Slide this up, go right and tap on the long exposure. And there you have the long exposure from the iPhone. It's looking quite nice. I have now switched to the Moment app, making sure I have the RAW format on because I want to go back and post-process this in Photoshop or Adobe Camera Raw. First, let's go to the ISO. Let's control, well, in this case, let's change it slightly. Let's first adjust the shutter speed because I don't want it too milky, you know, like so at 1 second, it'll be really milky. So let's go to around 1/5 of a second or 1/7, 1/6 of a second, okay. And then we'll adjust the ISO to give us the correct exposure. That looks good. Take a few photos. Okay, so try some more. Check the white balance. Maybe take it to around 8,000, 7,800. Yeah, looks nice. Here's my composition number 2 for the upper Canara Falls. You can see this log of wood is coming from the top left third all the way down diagonally across the frame towards the bottom right. I have the waterfall in the center left and the cliffs in the background with some glow. So let's first take a photo with the iPhone's inbuilt camera app and see how that looks. So make sure live's enabled and then tap and hold anywhere on the landscape. You'll see the AEF lock text. Slide the sun's icon down to lower the exposure or brightness. Slide it up to increase the exposure or brightness. I like it somewhere out here. Let's take a few photos and now see how it looks. That looks quite nice already and there's plenty of milky effect, but if you want more, just slide the photo up, go right and tap on the long exposure and there you have it. Looks quite nice. Okay, so now let's switch to the Moment app and see how that looks. I'm now in the Moment app. So first things first, let's adjust the shutter speed to what we want. It's currently at 1/5, so that's about right, I think. Should give a nice milky effect. And now go to the ISO and lower the ISO very slightly. That's good. For the white balance, you can leave it at auto white balance, or you can simply adjust the white balance. Let's make it 8,200 or so. Take some shots. Yeah, that looks nice. I like it. Okay, so let's talk about selfies. If you want a selfie, you can either use the self timer on your camera, or buy one of these Bluetooth remotes for like $3 or $4 on Amazon. I bought one of these and I'm going to use this. My remote's currently paired up with my phone, so when I press the button, it'll take the photograph. So before you head out to your location, same thing, make sure your lights enabled, lock in the exposure and the focus, adjust it, and once that is done, then head out, stand there in your location and trigger the shutter. Alright guys, so let's now try a selfie in the moment app. Make sure the white balance is auto white balance, or you can do it manual, maybe 8200 or so. Go to your shutter speed 1/4 of a second and ISO is 124, that's fine. The bottom line is that your phone's inbuilt camera app can deliver great results. However, if you don't mind post-processing and want more control over your photos, you can choose to have an external app like Moment. So guys, I hope you have a little more confidence now in your smartphones. Your smartphones are great and can take great photos. So that concludes this video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, then like, share, subscribe as always. And if you didn't like the video, then leave me a comment down below letting me know how I can improve videos going forward. Until next time, this is the Light Explorer signing out of beautiful Canara Falls in southern Utah.